Ever wondered how people tried to find love centuries ago? What desperate measures would someone take to make their crush notice them in medieval times? Number 9. The Mandrake Root. Nature's controversial aphrodisiac. Did you know that people in the Middle Ages believed a plant could scream? The mandrake root was perhaps the most mysterious and feared plant in medieval Europe's love potion arsenal. This strange-looking root, often resembling a human figure, was thought to possess incredible powers of attraction and fertility. Medieval folks believed the mandrake grew beneath gallows, springing from the bodily fluids of executed men. The collection process alone was the stuff of nightmares. Herbalists warned that when pulled from the ground, the mandrake would emit a shriek so terrible it could kill anyone who heard it. To harvest it safely, people would tie a dog to the plant, place wax in their own ears, then call the dog from a distance. The poor animal would pull up the root and die from the scream, while the human collector would survive to claim their prize. Once obtained, hopefully without canine casualty, the mandrake root would be ground into powder and mixed into food or drink. The recipient would supposedly become overwhelmed with desire for whoever gave them the concoction. Mandrake was also placed under beds to promote fertility and conception. What's particularly fascinating is that mandrake does contain alkaloids with mild hallucinogenic and narcotic properties. In small doses, it might indeed reduce inhibitions and create a feeling of euphoria, perhaps explaining why its reputation as a love aid persisted for centuries, despite the dangers associated with it. Number 8. Dove's blood ink. Writing your way to romance. Can you imagine writing a love letter using blood? In medieval times, some lovesick individuals wouldn't just pour their heart into their words. They'd use a very special ink, believed to ensure the recipient would return their affections. Dove's blood ink was considered one of the most powerful tools for romantic persuasion in the medieval world. The dove, symbolizing peace and love across many cultures, was thought to infuse the ink with properties of devotion and fidelity. While some recipes actually called for blood from these birds, a practice that would horrify modern animal lovers, many medieval dove's blood formulas used red berries, wine, or certain minerals to create a crimson ink that symbolically represented the bird's blood. The love-struck person would write the name of their beloved 7 times on parchment, using this special ink. Some traditions called for adding the person's name to specific verses from religious texts or ancient love spells. The completed charm might be carried close to the heart, slipped under the desired person's pillow, or even burned while reciting incantations. What makes dove's blood ink particularly interesting is how it transformed the ordinary act of writing into something magical. In a time when literacy was limited, the ability to write carried inherent power and mystery. Combined with the symbolic blood of love's messenger bird, these written charms represented a fascinating blend of emerging literacy and ancient magical traditions. Number 7. The medieval Aphrodisiac Banquet. Seduction through the stomach. Did medieval people throw entire dinner parties dedicated to stimulating desire? Absolutely. Long before chocolate became the go-to romantic gift, medieval Europeans hosted elaborate feasts, featuring foods believed to kindle passion. These sensual banquets featured carefully selected ingredients thought to inflame desire. Saffron, the world's most expensive spice, was sprinkled liberally in dishes as it was believed to increase sexual appetite. Honey, with its sweet taste and sticky texture, featured prominently in desserts and was even applied directly to the body in some intimate practices. Ginger, cinnamon, and nutmeg, all rare and costly imports, were valued not just for their flavors, but for their warming properties, thought to heat the blood and stir passion. Animal products played a significant role too. Oysters whose reputation as an aphrodisiac continues today, were served at these feasts. More unusual additions included sparrow brains and rooster testicles, believed to boost virility. Certain foods were chosen simply because they resembled sexual organs. Asparagus, carrots, and figs were particularly popular for their suggestive shapes. Wine flowed freely at these gatherings, often infused with herbs like verbena and damiana to enhance its amorous effects. Special drinking vessels were sometimes used, including double cups that forced couples to coordinate their movements to drink without spilling, creating an intimate connection. What's particularly interesting about medieval aphrodisiac banquets is how they combined genuine nutritional science with magical thinking. Many of the chosen foods did contain nutrients that improve blood flow or energy levels, potentially enhancing physical performance. However, the elaborate ceremonies and specific combinations reveal how thoroughly medieval people wove magic into everyday activities like eating and drinking. Number 6. Binding spells. Tying the knot. Literally. Have you heard about literally tying someone to your heart? In medieval Europe, when someone said they wanted to bind their lover to them, they might have meant it quite literally. Binding spells were elaborate rituals designed to secure a person's affections permanently. The most common form involved actual knots tied in ribbon, cord, or even human hair, with each knot representing a specific aspect of the desired relationship. As the practitioner tied these knots, they would recite incantations, declaring their intention to bind the object of their affection to them eternally. One particularly powerful version incorporated personal items from the desired person: a strand of hair, a thread from their clothing, or even nail clippings. These would be woven into the binding cord to create a sympathetic connection. The completed charm might be hidden under the beloved's bed, buried near their home, or worn secretly by the spell caster. What makes binding spells fascinating is how they persisted across cultures and social classes. While church authorities condemned such practices as demonic evidence, suggests everyone from peasants to nobility engaged in these rituals. Court records from medieval witch trials frequently mention binding spells as evidence of malefic magic, showing how seriously these practices were taken. The psychological impact of binding spells reveals much about medieval attitudes toward love and free will. The very concept that a person's affections could be bound suggests a view of love as something that could be captured and controlled through the right magical technique rather than freely given. Yet the elaborate nature of these rituals also speaks to the depth of emotion behind them. People were willing to engage in complex, sometimes dangerous practices in their quest for romantic fulfillment. Number 5. St. Valentine's mysterious bone charms. Holy love relics. Would you wear a piece of a saint's skeleton to find love? In medieval Europe, many people did exactly that. While today St. Valentine is associated with chocolates and greeting cards, medieval Europeans had a much different and more literal connection to the patron saint of lovers. Relics purportedly from St. Valentine's body were highly prized as love charms. Small fragments of bone or cloth associated with the saint were encased in metal or glass amulets and worn as pendants. Women seeking husbands would pray over these relics, asking the saint to guide a suitable match their way. Young men might touch a Valentine relic before proposing marriage, believing it would ensure a positive response. Particularly powerful were relics said to contain bone dust from the saint's heart, thought to directly influence romantic matters. Churches across Europe claimed to possess authentic Valentine relics, creating pilgrimage sites for the romantically challenged. The Church of Santa Maria in Cosmedin, in Rome, the Whitefriars Street Church in Dublin, and several other locations throughout France and Italy all claimed to house parts of the saint's remains. On February 14th, Special services would be held where the lovelorn could approach these relics, offer prayers, and receive blessings for their romantic pursuits. What makes these relic-based love charms particularly fascinating is how they represent an officially sanctioned version of love magic. While church authorities condemned most love potions and spells as sinful or demonic, praying to Saint Valentine's remains was considered appropriate and effective. This created an interesting middle ground where magical thinking about controlling romantic outcomes was permitted within a Christian framework. Number 4. Menstrual blood magic. The ultimate love binding. Shocked yet you should be. Of all the love potions used in medieval times, this one was considered the most powerful and the most taboo. Medieval folk magic held that a woman's menstrual blood contained her life essence and creative power. Adding a few drops to a man's food or drink would supposedly bind him in absolute devotion. This practice existed across Europe despite being condemned by both religious and secular authorities. Women would secretly add minute amounts of menstrual blood to wine, soup, or bread given to their beloved or desired partner. Some recipes called for mixing it with apple cider, honey, or chocolate, after chocolate arrived in Europe, to mask any possible taste. The men would consume the mixture completely unaware of the additional ingredient. What's fascinating is how this practice represented a rare instance of women wielding magical power in a patriarchal society. While women were often the victims of controlling magic, menstrual blood charms gave them agency in romantic matters. Court records from witch trials occasionally mention such practices, suggesting they were widespread enough to warrant specific condemnation. Medieval medical texts contributed to beliefs about menstrual blood's power. Physicians of the era described it as having jobbing properties, both dangerous and beneficial depending on context. This ambivalent attitude reinforced the notion that menstrual blood held special magical potential for influencing men's hearts and minds. Perhaps most interesting is how this practice crossed religious and cultural boundaries. Similar beliefs existed in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic folk traditions throughout medieval Europe, suggesting deep psychological roots transcending specific cultural contexts. The universal taboo nature of the substance combined with its connection to fertility created a powerful symbolic tool for love magic that persisted despite official prohibition. Number 3. Love sickness as medical condition. Prescribed passion cures. Can you imagine doctors diagnosing love sickness as a legitimate medical emergency? In medieval times, unrequited love wasn't just emotional pain. It was considered a potentially fatal condition requiring immediate treatment. Medieval physicians, following ancient Greek and Arabic medical traditions, classified excessive passion as a genuine illness affecting both body and mind. Symptoms included insomnia, loss of appetite, rapid pulse, pale complexion, and obsessive thoughts about the beloved. If left untreated, doctors warned love sickness could lead to melancholy, madness, and even death. Treatment options ranged from practical to bizarre. For mild cases, physicians recommended distractions like travel, music, or engaging conversation. More severe cases warranted physical interventions. Bloodletting was common, as doctors believed it would release the overheated blood, causing the patient's passionate fever. Cold baths might be prescribed to cool the inflamed humors. Herbal remedies played a central role in treating love sickness. Valerian root and chamomile were administered to calm agitated patients, while more exotic substances like powdered unicorn horn, actually narwhal tusk, and amber were prescribed for the wealthy. Some physicians recommended consuming lettuce and water lilies, believed to reduce sexual desire by cooling the body. For the most desperate cases, doctors might prepare complex potions combining dozens of ingredients. One famous remedy from the influential medical text, The canon of medicine included jasmine, cucumber seeds, water lily, camphor, and rosewater, ingredients thought to cool passion while lifting melancholy. What makes medieval lovesickness treatments so fascinating is how they blur the line between medicine and magic. While presented within the framework of legitimate medical practice, many remedies incorporated elements we would now consider purely symbolic or magical. This medical approach to love problems reveals how medieval people understood romance not just as an emotional experience, but as a physical condition affecting the entire person. Number 2. Enchanted apples. The original forbidden fruit. Ever wondered why apples appear in so many fairy tales as magical objects? Medieval love magic might explain it. Apples held a special place in medieval love magic, considered the perfect vessel for romantic enchantment. Their association with forbidden desire, thanks to the biblical Eden story, made them symbolically powerful for love spells. Plus their practical attributes, common enough not to raise suspicion, yet special enough to be given as gifts, made them ideal for secretly delivering love potions. One popular charm involves sleeping with an apple under your armpit. Yes, you read that correctly. Until it absorbed your body odor, then giving it to your crush to eat. Medieval people believed this would transfer your essence to them, creating an unbreakable bond. Another method required carving the beloved's name or initials into an apple, sleeping with it near your heart for 3 nights, then giving it to them to eat. For more elaborate enchantments, practitioners would inject potions into apples using needles made from special woods or metals. The apple's flesh would seal around the puncture, hiding any evidence of tampering. Common ingredients for these injections included honey mixed with herbs like vervain, known as enchanter's herb, rose petals, or more exotic substances like powdered dove's heart. Apple seeds themselves were considered powerful ingredients in love potions. Their slight cyanide content gives them a bitter almond flavor and can cause mild physiological effects if consumed in large quantities, potentially contributing to their reputation for magical properties. What makes enchanted apples particularly interesting is their persistence across medieval social classes. While elaborate potions might require expensive ingredients and specialist knowledge, apple charms were accessible to everyone. Court records and folk collections contain accounts of servants using apple magic to attract nobility, merchants' daughters enchanting wealthy suitors, and even nobility attempting to influence royal marriages through carefully prepared apples. Number 1. Venus, wings, and erotic talismans. Wearable love magic. Would you wear jewelry explicitly designed to make you irresistible? Medieval Europeans did. At the intersection of jewelry, astrology, and erotic magic existed a fascinating category of medieval love charms, Venus rings, and talismans. These weren't merely decorative. They were precision, magical instruments designed according to strict astrological conditions. Crafted by specialized jewelers with astrological knowledge, authentic Venus talismans needed to be made when the planet Venus was in an auspicious position, typically in Taurus or Libra, signs traditionally ruled by Venus. The most powerful were created during specific planetary hours, on Fridays, Venus's day, and incorporated copper, the metal associated with the goddess of love. These talismans often featured intricate engravings of symbolic images and characters. Common designs included the astrological symbol for Venus doves, sacred to the goddess, and myrtles, her sacred plant. Some more explicit versions contained erotic imagery or magical characters thought to amplify sexual attraction. The wearer would carry or wear these rings when in the presence of their desired lover, believing the talisman would open the person's heart to affection. Particularly fascinating were dual-action Venus talismans that incorporated 2 magical purposes. Some were designed both to attract new love and strengthen existing relationships. Others combined love magic with prosperity magic, based on the belief that Venus influenced both romantic and financial fortune. The most complex talismans included compartments for housing additional magical substances, a strand of the beloved's hair, aromatic herbs, or written spells on tiny scrolls. What makes these astrological love talismans remarkable is how they represented a sophisticated system blending multiple magical traditions. They incorporated elements of Greco-Roman mythology, Arabic astrology, Hebrew angelic names, and pagan symbolism into objects that crossed cultural and religious boundaries throughout medieval Europe. Despite church condemnation of astrological magic, these talismans were popular among all social classes. Surviving examples range from crude lead amulets worn by peasants to elaborate gold and gemstone creations commissioned by nobility. Their widespread use reveals how deeply the desire for magical assistance in matters of the heart penetrated medieval society at all levels. Have you ever wondered if any of these ancient love potions might actually have worked? What would happen if someone tried using these medieval methods of attraction in today's world?